What is up, my spooky mates of YouTube? My name is Marcel from Aussie Horror, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the brand new Saw movie, Saw X. So if that sounds good to you guys, let's get into the video.
Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screeching.
What, did you think he was gonna hack me up into little pieces or something?
So today I went to the cinemas with some mates and I got to check out the brand new Saw movie. And the first thing I want to clarify is that I'd read numerous stories about people being handed sick bags for the movie, and I went to the cinema and I was actually going to frame the sick bag and put it up as a display for my YouTube channel, but they didn't have any, and that was pretty damn disappointing because that was like part of the reason why I wanted to go to the movie.
I'm afraid there's nothing else we can do.
But another part is that this movie really didn't warrant the sick bag treatment. A movie like Terrifier 2, if you've ever seen that before, that actually deserves the sick bag. Those are the two movies that I think of immediately, Terrifier 2 and Saw X, that have been given the sick bag treatment. And that movie is night and day in terms of how much more graphic it is than Saw 10. Saw 10, you know, it's got some grisly bits. It's a horror movie after all. But Saw X, on the other hand, is pretty tame in comparison to Terrifier 2, although that kind of goes without saying because Terrifier 2 is like a pretty nasty movie, but it's so over the top it becomes funny, whereas Saw 10 it's a little more serious in tone. But I was pretty disappointed with the gore and violence in this one. And part of the reason that gore and violence is, you know, the impact of it is removed a little bit, it's because the people in this movie that are in the Saw traps, they really, really deserve it. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer or not yet, so I'm not going to go into too much details, but you know, it almost comes across as though the people in these Saw traps, more so than any of the other Saw traps throughout the movies, deserve what they're going through. So that does remove some of the impact of the traps, that does remove from the gore of the traps. One of the Saw traps in particular, where a character, I'm not going to spoil which one, has to break a hand and a foot to get out, it's got to be one of the tamest Saw traps I've ever seen. And Jigsaw really sums it up perfectly when he's like relaying what the victim has to do by breaking their hand and legs to get out of the trap. Broken bones heal. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, this has got to be the tamest Saw trap I've ever seen. But the person that's in the Saw trap is probably, it makes sense for them to be in that trap because they sort of deserve the least amount of agony. But I won't go on any further about that. Just, you're gonna have to go see the movie yourself.
Kramer.
Overall, I thought it was a decent entry in the Saw franchise. One of the better movies in the franchise, but probably not my favorite one. My favorite one has got to be Saw 1. Just when that came out in 2004, it was sort of a revolutionary film in the horror genre in terms of how much they could do with such a little budget, and the Aussie connection obviously as well is, you know, that plays a big role in it. But yeah, Saw X on the other hand, the thing that I like about Saw X is that it actually takes a more serious and almost reflective tone in comparison to the rest of the movies. The Jigsaw Killer, played by Tobin Bell, he's sort of, you know, he's struggling with his cancer and he goes to get treatment, and let's just say that doesn't go too well. You do feel some genuine sympathy for John Kramer in this movie. He's obviously not a good man, but he has a strict moral code, and that's explored in this movie more so than any of the other Saw movies, I feel. And I really like that element to it. I love the philosophy that's explored in it. And terms like morals and ethics are brought up quite a few times in the movie. And I think that's a good way to sum up Saw X as a whole, is that it's sort of like a nasty little morality tale. And that can be said for the rest of the Saw movies as well. But this one in particular, it's almost like the Saw movie with heart, if that makes sense to you. For those of you that have seen it, drop a comment below and tell me what you think about sort of my take on it, because it did feel like Saw X was trying to be a little more mature in how it presented things, and I know that's kind of funny. It's such a warped way of trying to test people's morals and values, but in another way, it's sort of like the ultimate extreme of testing someone's moral character. Shawnee Smith is back as Amanda as well, and she's got a pretty significant role in the movie, which is really nice. It does feel like a smaller Saw movie. It's very self-contained, not unlike the earlier Saw movies. A lot of the people that I've spoken to about the movie have been praising Tobin Bell's performance in particular. Shawnee Smith is good in it as well, but Tobin Bell, his performance in the movie is just fantastic. and you really sympathize with a bloke that by all rights you probably shouldn't be sympathizing with. And Sinead McCarthy Lund as Cecilia Peterson, her role is pretty important in the movie as well, and I can't really say anything without spoiling it, but her performance in this is quite good as well. You're going to really feel some strong emotions for this character as well, but I'm not going to tell you whether or not they're positive or negative. Overall though, the performances across the board in this movie, they really hit all the right notes. So with that all being said about the performances, what did I dislike about the movie? I disliked how polished it felt. If you go back and watch Saw 1 and 2 in particular, they feel so gritty and raw, whereas this movie, it does have that studio polish and sheen, and I think that the presentation would have been aided from some more grit and grime. Go back and watch the first Saw movie and you're gonna have a really good idea of what I'm talking about here. That movie felt like it was recorded with a handheld camera. It was really, it was focused on a lot of close-ups. It was very intimate in that way, and it really helped portray how terrible the situation was. This film, it does feel like a large budget horror movie, and I believe it only cost about $13 million to make, which is a pretty big budget as far as horror movies go, and you really get that sense when you're watching the movie. It feels like an expensive Hollywood production. The gore effects are very good in that they're mostly practical. There's very little CGI in them. That is a positive point for the gore, but it's pretty tame in comparison to some of the other kills in the Saw movies. And with the polish and sheen of the overall production, it just doesn't come across as gritty as some of the earlier kills in the movies are. But apart from a lack of grit, and apart from sort of not living up to my expectations for the gore of the movie, I think what you do get is a more mature, a more serious Saw movie. The story is quite engaging, all things considered, and Tobin Bell's performance is fantastic, and it's easily one of the best horror performances of the year, and I really hope Tobin Bell gets his flowers because he deserves all the credit he's getting for the movie. Anyways, if you guys have seen the new Saw movie, let me know in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say, and until the next video, my name is Marcel from Aussie Horror, and I'll catch you guys around.